The premier Chia event of the summer is coming alongside a big crypto event that's happening in Canada. I thought we should at least talk about it a little bit because it's happening tomorrow. So it's a prep day for those who are on their way to Chia Toronto. There was an announcement that I had saw that was going to happen for a new product, but it looks like something's been changed in the schedule slightly. So we'll have to keep an eye for the specific lightning talks that are of most interest. Lucas, I know you're not going to be able to make it to the event, but you've been following this kind of closely. Let's at least talk about this. And then there's some other exciting Chia news that's happened. So yeah, today is kind of let's see what's new in the world of Chia.
Well, I woke up this morning and looked at my X feed, and I saw that Monkey Zoo and Yak Hito had shared a flight to Toronto, so I was feeling a bit of FOMO. I'm excited to see what happens. Community member Foods, Smertex something something or other, has put this together. Bravo Foods. Wish I could have made it, but it's a long way from Texas, and I've been busy lately. But
I'm interested in this one, Neil Hand.
yeah,
I know that Chia's always been, like there has been criticism that there's not enough marketing. And look, we've got the senior vice president of marketing. I think this guy's new. I haven't heard this name before.
well, there's back to that discussion about Chia marketing. Perhaps he's marketing towards financial institutions and players in the stock market like Citadel. Hopefully, we'll hear some more news with regards to Permuto's trust launches and what's going on there.
Yeah.
And
So what was the latest on Permuto? Like we're scooting to that. I mean, clearly this is going to be a focus of what happens at XCH Toronto. I think there's a couple of different parts of the overall program that will be devoted to this. And we've got Trent, who's the co-CEO of Permuto there. They did some refiling. There was a recent space that happened. What was the key takeaway on that one?
The key, I listened to it, but I was also on the road. The key takeaway that I took from it was Gene seemed very ebullient, if I could use that word. Things were going very well. Things were also going well with the S1 filing, and I think that they only had one existing comment left from the SEC with regards to that. So probably be some good news. He also mentioned in the space that he held the other day that that Chia Gaming was essentially wrapped up, and so some of the elements of Chia Gaming that Bram has been working on are going to be part of the stock settlement or the ACDC trading, so are essential for that.
Yeah, that it was because Chia Gaming had been building out the scaling solution. So when the L1s are completely full, you need to have some other mechanism whereby you can aggregate things, roll things up. So these are commonly referred to as L2s or ELTOO. I think Bram's been noted for saying that this forms the basis of L2 technology, but I don't think it was separated quite that way. So even though some of the technology has been pioneered here, it's not like when they deliver gaming, we're going to get a functional L2 infrastructure and gaming on top of that. I think there are ideas that are built into it, but I don't think they're clearly separated out so that you just get it. I think that kicks off another round of development is the way I read that.
Well, you have a better read on that than me. I was being vague there out of ignorance. But when you scroll,
No worries. But we do have the speaker set. Just let's stick on XCH Toronto here for a second. So the speakers that we've got is there's a fair number of individuals who have been pulled into the overall big effort of getting Permuto launched. So I think Andreas Grimmel, who's the founder of Mint Garden there, is going to be giving one of the first talks. So when he came on to the show and talked to us, he said that he had actually started doing some consulting with Chia. So that cloud wallet presentation, then also Rigidity's presentation, we've got a couple of people who are actually devs at Chia that are technically working for them that are also presenting here. But it looks like what Rigidity is presenting is more uh, cutting edge tech on Sage. So that's fun stuff. That might be pretty cool, actually. Of the talk, that would be the one I'd be most interested in hearing about.
And when you scroll down to the notable guests, I saw that Dennis, founder of Dexy, is also going to be there, but I don't see him giving any talk. But
maybe that's one of those things that needs to get updated. Perhaps there was a time where he was contemplating coming and can't make it for some reason.
well, maybe that's a special guest.
It could be. Now there's a thought. Special
Uh,
guest about OneMarket. Now that could be super interesting because if there's going to be a OneMarket on Chia, Dexy's got to be in the mix. That's the premier place to trade all things Chia related. So if anybody was going to give a special guest talk, I'd imagine it would be Dennis or DNS from Dexy.
could very well be. Uh, we'll see very soon. But I don't know Jake. Are you familiar with Jake, a farmer, talking about a Kansas garage farm tour?
I don't know what that could possibly be about. It must just be some farmer, some XCH farmer that's going to talk a bit about how they were doing stuff in the garage with electricity from the sun, or I imagine that's what that's about.
Well, apropos that they're from Kansas, hopefully Western Kansas, with some massive farm wrapped around their garage. Um, yeah, Monkey Zoo's going to be there. I saw that he posted. Silicon is going to probably be talking about some of their new announcements. I saw Gene has an upcoming space about their NFT launch with for I don't know if it's owning GPUs, but for that are associated with their GPUs. Could be another interesting one.
So Permuto is the big new bet on Chia, but there was the announcement from Silicon about like what they released, some kind of a estimate of how much people were making. Is that fair? I'm pulling that up quick, but I think you saw that one, and there was some details about what's going on with Silicon. That was the big $3 or $4 million, at $5 million investment that Chia made.
Yes, well, I did see it was a tweet by Paul recently that and I want to say the number was like 430,000, somewhere around there, of revenue generated by sales of time on their GPUs. So seems like they've got some customers and are gaining momentum over at Silicon. So they'll probably have some good news to report.
I wonder if that's some hybrid technology that they're using because I don't think their platform's launched yet. So whatever they're doing that touches the world of Chia, I think that's still to come. This must be the precursor to whatever Silicon's platform ends up looking like.
I don't know. What do you mean by their I'm not sure what you mean, but
Well, they published their light paper, and then they had some technology discussions about how things are going to work. I don't know if you saw it, but there was like a cryptic mention of this is going to happen on Mint Garden, or these NFTs are coming soon to Mint Garden, which is the tokenized portions of however those GPUs are being monetized. So what I'm saying is I don't think at this point the Chia tech is launched. I think they're using whatever other mechanism for monetization of those GPUs, but the tokenization part is yet to come.
true. Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, again, Gene has a space scheduled on his page with the title Silicon and NFTs. So probably talking about it here at Toronto, but then they'll be talking about it on X too. Um, Gene also mentioned the other day, by the way, that they had that CNI um, had was almost there with the new plot format, and were pleasantly surprised with the results of the new plot format. So I also see Ecological Chia Farming by Oleg here. I'm not sure who Oleg is, um, but I would guess that that has something to do with the new plot format. So
Yeah,
perhaps that.
the new plot format should be coming out. I'd imagine any day. I heard there was details of what was going on that front. That the format was mostly cooked. That they were pretty happy with it, and that there may be some engagement with the community. Because if that new plot format is going to get traction, it has to get adopted as a hard fork. Actually, I think is the requirement there. So if if we're watching and keeping abreast of what's going on with the plot format, then Chia will have a hard fork that is required to bring that into the mix.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what you think about a new plot format, but I uh, I would like to see Chia back to hard drives and away from GPUs. Um, so, but maybe who knows, what hacks will be of even a new plot format.
Well, so as far as my thoughts on the new plot format, I'm definitely excited about anything that returns us to more of a low energy chain. We've sort of skated into this thing that I think was very unintended in the world of Chia, that we're running some kind of hybrid GPU high energy thing to be the most competitive, and so it means that we're back to chasing cheap power, just like every other proof of work crypto that piggybacked on the top of the successes of what Bitcoin did. And there's still a lot of them out there that work under that proof of work model, and they're some of the longest running, most successful tokens that have ever existed. And so now Chia finds itself in that camp of, if you have cheap power, you can outcompete people who are at home and in a very decentralized kind of mechanism. So, we've definitely lost a lot of that decentralization narrative. Uh, the thing that has me a little concerned about the new plot format is not that it returns us to these low energy decentralized roots, but rather, what will this mean for the momentum of Chia later? Because we're essentially now asking people to get their plotters back out, fire them back up, replot their drives. This was a big problem, even to get some people to replot to just being on the pooling protocol. So, there, back when we first had a big plot format change, that was one of them. Then we got into the compressed plotting, which there was a heyday when it looked like Chew was going to be really profitable. There was a reason to go after these compression formats because there was a way to make money. But with the erosion of the price of Chia, we're still at sub 15, which for many people, that's a hard cutoff line. It's hard to make it make sense in any aggregate way. That you're going to have to get people to actually fire those back up, put their drives through, and go through this entire process. And will there be a price commensurate with that? So I think, if this is actually going to happen and there's going to be widespread adoption of it, it will probably come if Permuto launches. There's a lot of utility on the chain, and we see a price appreciation. I think there'll be a lot more appetite for people to fire those plotters back up and get those plots online in the new format.
Well, I know we talked about thorium reactors recently, but I don't think they're anywhere close around the corner. So, yeah, I I too think I too hope that we can return to low energy consensus security. Um,
Well, so, I mean, since we're talking about replotting and distributed Chia, there's probably something else we need to mention about things that are happening in the world of Chia, and that's that Evergreen has announced that they're fully shutting down in 2 weeks. So anybody that's running an Evergreen, you're going to have to do something at some point, and that might be fairly soon. Just so happens that we were already in front of that one as well, so we had a chance to catch up with the guys at Druid Garden, and it sounded like they were very close to having the operating system ready to go. They were in doing some betas and whatever, and so there's an opportunity there where you could probably reflash your device, start running the Druid Garden OS, and keep that Evergreen online. So if you haven't been paying attention to what's happening in the world of Evergreen, that system will become somewhat unusable or completely unusable if you have a certain type. I think if you're running the oldest versions of it, the ones where the plots were not tied to a GPU, that they would have just kept working and it wouldn't have mattered if Evergreen shuts down or not. But there was some centralized component that got integrated into it in the latter days, which we covered when we talked about Evergreen in detail. We'll probably put that one in the show notes in case you want to catch up on that. But yeah, the older ones probably work without having to make any changes. But if you've got one of those newer devices or you've been having trouble with it, probably switching to the Druid Garden OS is going to be the right thing to do. And that will necessitate cracking that thing open and reflashing the little micro SD card that's in there.
Um, that doesn't involve a sweater. Uh, when you say that part of it is centralized, so in 2 weeks, um, I guess two questions for you. One, at what point did Evergreen move over to some sort of centralized aspect with the hard drives that they were selling? And two, go ahead.
Oh, well, it was after my time, so I think the evolution of the Evergreen product went like this. The first was just regular old pool plots, so plot with a plot NFT. Then the first, first set of next generation plots that came out was it was early in 2023, where we had adopted the compressed plot format that Chia put out, which didn't require anything other than a CPU decompressor. There came a little bit later a much higher compression format standard that Evergreen started adopting that would require a GPU if you had too many of them. But even the small amount of them, if you had the higher compression ones, the CPU on the Raspberry Pi could still handle it. But then they adopted Mad Max's standard, and that thing required this centralized bank of GPUs that were available. And I think that was in mid 2024 that they actually launched that one. So there would have been, I don't know, 6 to 8 months of product sales that probably would be impacted by that centralized component. So when that goes away, I don't think you have the ability to code in some other remote decompressor. So that's where you have to do something like the Druid Garden OS, because it allows you to point at whatever decompressor you want. And I think that they helped broker a couple of deals to find some GPUs that are out there that are willing to do that piece, and you got to pay a fee for it. But I think it might make sense to set it up that way, but maybe it makes more sense to dump those centralized plots and get something that's more decentralized, that maybe just where we see a lot of those devices stay offline for some period of time until the new compressed plot format comes out. And since it's so much smaller, it might be easier to generate it. I'm not sure. Maybe the Raspberry Pi could just regenerate plots on its own. Who knows? That much smaller K28 is kind of an interesting wrinkle in the whole system here.
Well, you answered my other question with I was wondering if Druid had found some sort of centralized GPU to provide that service. So answer that question. Maybe we will hear more about the new plot because hear more about it from Toronto. Maybe we could get James back on for some reactions to that at some point in the future.
We've got it, because he's got to be getting close to launching that thing as well. Because last time we talked to him, it was, yeah, this is coming, it's beta, this, that, and the other thing. I imagine, a couple of weeks on, I don't know if it was almost a month ago, maybe, that he'd have some sort of an update for us and could show us it in more detail. I imagine they've made quite a few strides and they're getting that thing ready to go. It looked like the last piece that needed to be done was mostly on the UI side of things. So yeah, if you've been keeping track of what's going on with Evergreen, there was the announcement that it was shutting down. So you're gonna have to do something if you have a certain type of model.
Ever gone. Well, enough about farming. Let's talk about rigidity. I don't know if you caught his tweet the other day, but I actually wanted to pick your brain. He tweeted about this Sage Actions and it making complex transactions easier with the Sage wallet. There's also we covered the lawsuit against Apple and the Apple Store walled garden falling away. So I've been expecting to see Sage Wallet listed on Apple's applications instead of having to use TestLite. So that should be good news for Chia and for Sage Wallet. But I wondered also, did you have any insight to what Rigidity might be talking about with regards to this Sage Actions package?
Well, I don't know how close you read it. This to me, Rigidity is a programmer, so he gets excited about programmery type stuff, and I don't think that this didn't come from the Sage wallet particularly, because I think what he's doing here is he's come up with a new pattern for how to code the Sage wallet, saying that there are actions that can happen internally. And I don't know if that's more of a command pattern. In computer programming, sometimes we have these patterns that can help make code organization and the way we reason about the way that we create features make more sense. And so there was this big revolution that happened in I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, where people got really excited about different design patterns. And so I think maybe what he's referring to here is there's a pattern in the way that he's organizing the code internally that's making things make a lot more sense. So I imagine that's what's happening here, is he's got some mechanism for piping everything through. And this one, I actually found a pattern that was called a command pattern when I was first developing a video game that I was making, which makes achievements and a whole host of other things work really well. So if you want to do undo, or if you want to be able to have the way to determine if somebody's hit an achievement, I don't know, like you say, collect 50 coins in Mario or something like that. How do you actually keep track of that in a generalized way? That there's ways to program it. So I think he's going to be giving more of a programmer style discussion about this, where I don't think it's as forward facing. It's not an action in the traditional sense here. I don't think that this is something that's some big, huge new breaking feature in the wallet that allows automation or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was hoping it'd be cool.
Well, it's probably cool if you're a programmer. It's maybe not cool for you.
I want something cool for me, something that I noticed, but
End user
okay.
cool.
I'm sure it'll prove my experience somehow. Have you been following Solslot lately? Have you talked to Matt lately?
Ooh, I not since the last time we spoke to him. I know he's been in a few spaces that I brushed past. I heard him talking, but unfortunately, a lot of those spaces have not just been at conducive times for being able to jump on. So no, I unfortunately have not had a chance to catch up with him since we had him on the show last.
Well, they have DAX now on base, so I'm not sure, and I'm not sure what the Solslot Pro package is. I don't know if that's bundling DAX or high volume DAX or what that might be, but he has still been hard at work with Solslot, with real estate, forward sales and exchange.
Yeah, there it is. Get on the wait list for Base Network.
There we go. Okay. That's some small print. Yeah, base Chia Network or fiat. So well, I'm excited to hear what he's going on there. Still one of my favorite projects in all of crypto, not just on Chia.
Sometimes the thing that's fun about when an announcement like this happens, they're working with multiple networks, also operating with fiat, that now you have more volume, you've got more activity, things are happening, and it can help develop on the right place. So we'll hopefully it is Chia where things kind of get the momentum and they get to play into that whole excitement around Permuto. But if for whatever reason the stuff on Chia gets a bit delayed, then they've got a couple other places that they're working with, and that's good for a project. Like we want to see Matt succeed, regardless of how much liquidity there is in the current Chia ecosystem.
Well, exactly, and I was glad to see them reaching out for other blockchains because while Chia to me and to many is the best, um, uh, there's probably a lot more people who are using Base with its relationship with Coinbase and Ethereum and everything else. So getting the exposure to all of that, I thought was a good move by the Sol's Lot crew. So and just like Dolly Parton said, I'm not leaving country music. I'm taking it with me. So I'm sure Matt will tell lots of people about Chia over in the communities that he meets over there. So, and I got to plug Dolly Parton, which Matt is from Tennessee. So there we go.
Well, the thing about Dolly Parton is she's made her own legacy. Clearly, an icon in the world of country music, but she also created her imagination library, which has promoted literacy. I mean, she's just a wonderful human being. Like when people get sainted, I'd be surprised if Dolly Parton isn't on the list.
She's definitely a saint in my book. No, when she crossed over to the pop charts, she took a lot of flack from the Grand Ole Opry crowd, and her response to them was, I ain't leaving country music. I'm taking it with me," and I think she did. So, but enough about Dolly. Sabari, did Sabari talk about XCH Flow with us?
No, remember he was talking about his secret project and said something would be coming. So this must be that secret project that he had in mind.
Well, now I'm getting a little jealous of Chia Toronto. Um, they get the news. They get the news from everything. Any idea? Do you have any thoughts as to what XCH Flow might entail?
I haven't had a chance to catch up with him either, so that will be an interesting one to keep our eye on. No, I had not had a chance to hear any new news about what XCH Flow might be, but as far as where it is in the schedule, it's right there after Souls Lot Pro. So whatever the Pro is, still has some ties to Chia, and Sabri is launching his new product. I remember he said it had something to do with AI, I think, right? So it was XCH.ai they were doing, and then they said that they had completely flopped all of their programming to somehow AI assisted.
Well, there was also the tax aspect of the tax tool in SpaceCan that he had created before. Um, who knows? I was trying to think back to our conversation. I'll have to go back and re-listen to it and see if there's any hints. I've only got a day to do it, so my goodness. Um, and next we've got Dracatus, dear friend Dracatus, Koba 42 latest innovations and updates. I know Drac has
That
been.
one's surprising. I thought that the Dracatus game was going to launch. What's going on there? Like for a couple of weeks, I was hearing everything that the game was going to go, and now we got some new thing. I wonder if this was another part of while they were developing the game, they ended up stumbling upon something else and thought of a new product to launch. That's kind of neat that they're operating as this incubator. A lot of these ideas kind of keep swirling through their desk, and as they find interesting stuff, they spin them out. But all ties back to the Jakarta's game in some sense.
Well, and Koba 42 refers to, I think, Drax LLC or incorporation, um, which also includes R with Heart Brad. Um, so yes, I know they've had their fingers in all sorts of AI and other Drac and Sarah sent something to the moon. So maybe they heard back from the base of star people that are on the dark side of the moon. Um, or maybe that's a different space. But no, I think Drac will be launching or releasing some updates to the Dracatus game very soon. Who knows what he's got going on with the Tang gang, with Tang Talk Wireless. Um, but some interesting things. Drac's always got some interesting things going on. So
Well, that was kind of fun that that Gene was on TV, wasn't he? And talking about Tangang, or where was that? Because I saw that little clip and I was a little surprised at first. I thought that that might have been something where the Tangang. I know that they're pretty good at video manipulation and they sometimes do fun little pieces. I didn't know if they inserted themselves in there, but no. Lo and behold, there was Gene talking about Tangang on that crypto show.
and that crypto show was, I believe it was Wired, Wired.com, and some sort of Wired relationship with, oh goodness, with the New York Stock Exchange. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting audience for Gene to be speaking to. Gene also spoke at the Crypto Summit. I'm not sure, or the political, what was that? The crypto. Um, anyway, the I don't know if it was in the White House or where it was, but with a political panel of speakers. But yes, Gene did mention the Tang Gang, and I went and listened to the full interview to see if that was some AI manipulation. And bravo to the Tang Gang for their sauciness with that regard. But no, Gene actually gave them a shout out. So yeah, you should throw up a link to that. It's on YouTube. If our listeners want to listen to Gene's full interview with Wired NYSE. But I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about the Wired NYSE. I hadn't seen it before. You found it.
Yeah, it's Crypto Trailblazers. Like that one. That's a
It's
wired connection, huh?
I thought it was Wired. theCUBE. I think theCUBE may be. Oh, it's NYSE Wired. So maybe not Wired. Um,
I think that that's something else. I don't think it's Wired, the magazine. I think yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. The
yeah,
Cube and Crypto Trailblazers is the show. Pretty
okay.
wild to see Tangang get mentioned though.
Yeah. Yeah. Very professional. Um, and now we've got Michael Taylor, Dig Network. So
So now Michael is, I think, spending most of his time working at silicon.net as far as the last I had heard. So unless something major has changed there, I imagine that this dig.net presentation will be kind of a wrap up update, what people should know about it rather than there's a lot of new developments here. I don't know that we've got a lot new there. There was kind of a cryptic tweet that he put out, said he had figured some stuff out, was working on some revamping, whatever. But I imagine a lot of his time is going towards his position there at Silicon. With they're going to get things going in earnest. One of the major players probably got to have a lot of focus there.
right. Well, I'm glad you saw the tweet and you called it cryptic. I couldn't. Um, I it certainly was cryptic to me. So, but always have my fingers crossed for more with the Dig Network. Uh, I think it's one of the brightest possibilities in relationship with Chia. So glad to see also Michael's dedicated perseverance in making that a realization. So we'll see what he has to say. And
Yeah, and then I guess we've got Josh Painter is bringing back SeedSnap, so that's was enabled by the API changes. I think what would happened on X. So now, since X has some ability to do this, that looks like we're going to get an update there. I don't. Again, I'm not exactly sure that this is that much different than what we had before at SeedSnap, but
I didn't realize that SeedSnap was coming back. I
I
did.
think
I missed
I
that.
think it might already be back.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, yay.
Yeah.
Then of course
The,
open.
the, the trick here is where they're going to store the images, because NFT.storage was the one everybody liked, and that one became somewhat unusable with their changes to their terms of service, and that the whole Filecoin thing is sort of a, I don't know, it's a weird place to store data. Hopefully they just put it right on chain.
Maybe maybe they're working out something with Michael and Dig Network. Who knows?
I say just jam it right on the chain. I've come full circle on this one with the way that people are talking about Bitcoin. We kind of ran that down the other day. It's like, unless the blocks are full, fill them up with JPEGs. Who cares?
You know what? I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. They don't have to be very high resolution. So, or if you want to pay for it, then fill up one block, one JPEG per block.
Yeah, do it while you still can. If Permuto launches and they end up taking all the space because Permuto is using the chain mostly, you're going to be in contention. But while we're waiting for that to launch, we've got some blocks with some empty space. Fill them up. Let's get those blocks full on Chia. So SeedSnap, I say, if you're listening to this, Josh, flip that switch and just jam it straight into the chain.
I can see Josh doing exactly that. Uh, I don't know. I wonder what Josh thinks about JPEGs on chain, but I would imagine he agrees. And until they're being used, might as well be fill them up.
I think that's all we got for running down what's going on in the world of Chia. So, we're watching for Permuto to launch. Gaming looks like it's going to be coming out soon. I don't see anything on here about gaming, so I imagine if we do get some sort of a UI, it will be at the behest of the community, or it won't be until probably Q1 of 2026, because I think they said they're all hands on deck with Permuto for the foreseeable future. So I imagine there won't be much in the way of carving off resources to actually getting some sort of a playable version of that yet, unless a community member steps up and helps Art out with that.
I thought I saw earlier that Bram was giving a talk about the Chia gaming, but maybe I'm making that up, or I saw it somewhere else.
Well, Bram was listed as an attendee, that somebody was going to be there, but we don't see him on the list of giving a presentation, which is unfortunate because that's pretty far along. You'd think with the current state of gaming being pretty much cooked that we'd be hearing something more from him directly.
Maybe that's at 11 p.m. after the drinks.
You got to catch him after hours, so that's when the open mingle. Hit him up.
Yeah.
Somebody go talk to Bram and let us know what he said.
Well, I mean, it is poker after all, so for late night. But no, that's all. I don't know if we have anything else to cover. I sort of ran through my brain, and I don't know that there's nothing else that I've seen going on Chia that I can add to it. So Chia, have fun in Toronto. Tell us what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a rundown from somebody, but that's it's happening tomorrow. If you still want to go and you're in the Toronto area, you can get there. I think you can still get in. Probably crash that open mingle if you don't have a ticket. I imagine that the security won't be too tight. You make some friends. All right, but yeah, we'll check you next time on FOMO.